Okay, in this video, you're going to discuss lower environment testing, specifically within the context of analytics validation in this key use case of ObservePoint. So, the very first thing we're going to do today is we're going to make sure you're familiar with this help doc called Scanning Secure Content. You'll see in this help doc there are 7 methods for authenticating in secure environments: firewall, basic authentication, proxy authentication, reverse proxy, browser or form-based authentication, private DNS, and finally VPN. We make a note here that VPN is the only solution that we'll talk about today that involves additional costs because of overhead that ObservePoint incurs to implement and maintain a VPN. The very first item on the list is firewall. So the right solution for you is going to depend on which of these 7 methods is most accessible and easiest to use. And firewall is definitely the most accessible for most of our customers, but may not satisfy the requirements of security teams. So we have a list of IP addresses here that you can go and share with the security teams and use those to grant access from specific IP addresses to those lower environments. So the full list is here, found in the doc. It's another awesome help doc that you can go and access. So I think I can open it here. Allow and exclude ObservePoint traffic, and here you'll see a list of IP addresses for all of our different locations that we support today. This is a list that regularly receives additions, but we do not change these IP addresses really ever. So you can rely on these to stay the same, to be static, and you don't have to approve all of them. You only need to approve IP addresses for this method. You only have to approve IP addresses for locations that you want to use for your lower environment testing. So if your teams are satisfied with using the Oregon location, all you have to do is approve this IP address in order to test those lower environments. Actually, all 5 of these IP addresses, because we will shuffle through the 5. All right, going back to the previous page, let's talk about the next method, basic authentication. So basic authentication is essentially where you go and visit a page and the browser, whether it's Chrome or Safari or Firefox, has a modal that is generated by the browser and requests that you sign in. And it requires a username and password that you will provide. And this is actually fairly simple to work around. As long as you have access to that username and password, we can implement a action in a journey, a pre-audit action, and use that pre-audit action in audit. And we can use that to access this lower environment before scanning pages or before executing actions. So the key is to have the correct format. So you can see here in this example, username : password @ and then mysite.com, which is essentially just the URL that we're going to visit, or the domain, and you can even include a path here, but generally people just have the home page. So what this looks like in practice, let's go to ObservePoint. So let's say we had a web page that looked like this and required basic authentication. I would go into ObservePoint, which I'll hop over to now. I'll click create new. In this case, we're going to apply this to an audit, but you could also apply this to a journey if this is a journey for a lower environment. But I will use the audit for now, and have an audit example. So we'll call this staging audit. And you're going to go to pre-audit actions. Actually, before that, you're going to go to URL sources and you're going to provide the URL. So in this case, let's use example.com. Then in pre-audit actions, which are actions that execute before the audit is initiated, before it starts to crawl the site, we'll create an on-page action. a pre-audit action, and then we will have a navigate to action type. We'll put basic authentication as a label here just for reference. And then we're going to simply follow the format that is described in the help doc. So just to review, it is https:// and then username : password @mysite.com. So I'll type in here a username. I'll put ObservePoint admin as my username : password 123 and then I can put whatever URL or whatever host name I want here. So I could put observepoint.com. Actually, in this case, I want to do example.com. I could also include, like I said, subdomains here. I could include URLs, URL paths, I should say, and any of those would be accepted. So let's go ahead and just keep it simple though and put example.com. So that's all. Now once you save it, you'll be able to run the audit and it will execute whatever test scenario you want on that lower environment. Now if this is truly a lower environment, it'll probably say something like test or dev or QA or stage. So you'll want to make sure that is consistent. So all right. Next, we're going to talk about proxy servers. So another method to accessing lower environments is going to be through a proxy server. So ObservePoint has the ability to support not only a wide variety of locations, but also we can support a custom proxy. I can say from experience that we don't run into this one as much, but it is a method that you can use to authenticate on those lower environments and access them. So in this case, in your audit settings, you'll simply go to test scenario. You'll select a custom proxy can be used, and then you'll provide the URL for that proxy. Your IT teams will have more, probably more context for which proxies would be viable for this and how to format the URL. But you can see an example of that URL format here with the IP address and port number of a proxy. The next method is a technique called reverse proxy, also something that you'll want to work closely with your IT team to implement. But it basically, this diagram illustrates here that ObservePoint's IP addresses or our servers will make a request to a company's public IP address. And then that company's public IP address essentially forwards that request through to a server that's on the company's private network. And so the idea is that we basically hand it off to you and you pass it through the firewall in a sense, or you have permission and therefore the firewall doesn't block your request. So that's a reverse proxy method. Also maybe less common, but still a viable option. Then there's browser or form-based authentication. This one is more popular. And I can demonstrate that here. So let's say that we're doing ObservePoint staging. And we're going to, and I should probably capitalize this. And we're going to pick our default location here. I'm going to use our staging environment ObservePoint, so app.observepointstaging.com. This is our staging host name. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a series of pre-audit actions that will log in. So it's quite simple, app.observepointstaging.com. If you've built journeys before or you are familiar with pre-audit action or built several audits with pre-audit actions, this should be pretty simple. But I'm going to step through an example. So here is app.observepointstaging.com, and I'm simply going to provide find identifiers or selectors for these different elements on the page. So here I have the dev tools over on the right hand side, and I have some friendly IDs here on these elements, which is convenient. So I'm going to grab the ID of username. I'm going to navigate back over here, and I'm going to select input. I'm going to put ObservePoint admin as my username, and I can just use this ID selector type, but CSS selectors are also supported among other selector options. So I'll call this my, I'll say input username, and there we go. I'll put nav to homepage, or nav to staging login page. And here I've input username. From here it's pretty straightforward. We're going to continue to add additional steps. So if I go back, I can inspect this field here. There it is, an ID of password. Very convenient naming convention. We recommend it. Input password is what I'll label it. Actually, sorry, we're not going to click. We're going to input. And I'll put password 123 is my example. And then last but not least, we need to click. So I'll put click login. And for the login button, it looks like it's a submit. Well, let me inspect it first. Okay, this one doesn't have a friendly ID, so this is a good example of a more complicated or more sophisticated one. But it really is not too difficult. If you copy the selector here, it should provide a selector example. Well, the browser will provide a selector, and I recommend another way to do this actually that's better is to copy the JS path. I'll empty this. Copying the JS path simply wraps that selector inside of document.querySelector function. And then what you can do is you can remove some of this text and simplify it. As long as there are not a lot of elements that share these class names, this should work great. And then we're going to go ahead and put .click and just test it once to see if it's submitted. And it did. I got an error because it didn't actually provide the credentials in this case, but it would have succeeded had I done so. So I'm going to copy this selector now, come back to my ObservePoint journey, and I'm going to paste this in, but this time I'm going to select CSS selector. And that's it. So I just create an audit that authenticates on that using the browser or form-based authentication. Okay, the sixth method is private DNS, where ObservePoint can access sites that are publicly accessible, but not yet publicly known, and you will work with your IT teams to add your ObservePoint will add your private DNS entries to its host files, as it states here, and so you would have to provide that information for ObservePoint, and our IT team can manage that request. The last method is VPN. We see this becoming increasingly common among enterprises that have tougher security protocols or tighter security protocols. And for this one, the path is to implement this is going to be to first contact your success manager at ObservePoint or our support team, and you're going to provide the following information: the primary network team contact name and email, the type of firewall in use, and that network team member can help you with that if you don't have that information. Firewall public IP address, URLs and IP addresses associated with the web servers hosting those URLs. And last, we need to confirm that there are no routing conflicts because we want to apply a CIDR block that doesn't overlap with the customer network. So these are more technical questions and requirements that you can definitely delegate to a member of that network team in order to support you in answering them. But that information is what we require, and then typically we'll schedule a call with that team member to answer their questions and make sure we're aligned on the path to implement. If you have questions about the cost of VPN, it is the only solution, again, that has additional costs, and so contact us, and we'd be happy to help you out. So I've stepped you through lower environment testing and all the different solutions that we have for lower environment testing. You should have that we should have already in this training series learned about the applications and the strategy behind it. This video is focused on how do we implement it and walk through all the 7 methods. If you have additional questions, please reach out to our team and contact us at support@observepoint.com, or you can direct message any other representative on our customer success team. That's it.